We got the mayor of Kansas City being quoted in the New York Times this weekend. And, of course, Chicago is where potentially the president of the United States may be sending national troops helping out with the crime issues up there in the Windy City. Our buddy Ray Stevens is here. Of course, he hosted Middays on KCMO and decided Kansas City was not violent enough for him, so he went back to Chicago. What's up, brother? How are you?
You know what? I'm wearing my Kevlar vest. I've got my helmet on. I'm dodging the bullets. I'm okay.
Good, man. Good. I know you got really nice studios there, too, at WLS, so you'll be A-okay in those fancy studios in downtown Chicago. So take me through right now where things are at with President Trump, J.B. Pritzker, the mayor, Brandon Johnson, and how you see this playing out this week.
Well, first of all, let me just give you some of the numbers so folks that are listening to KCMO understand what's going on in Chicago and why this is a national news story. Total shot year to date in Chicago, 1,399 people have been shot. Shot and wounded, and this is how they break it down. Shot and wounded, 1,144. Shot and killed, 255. 303 homicides, so that would be beatings, stabbings, things like that. Now, what Chicago will tell you, what Pritzker will tell you, and Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, will tell you, is the statistics and statistically crime is down, but we all know that numbers lie and liars use numbers. The way it works in Chicago is everybody knows that Pritzker's kind of positioning himself, and I don't know why he would do this in a million years, to run for president. So he wants to push back on everything that Donald Trump wants to do. If they could coalesce with Trump the way the Washington mayor did, what's the worst thing that can happen? People are safe, crime goes down, it's a win-win. If it doesn't work, well, then Pritzker can say, see, Trump was wrong. But as it sits right now, Pete, there are troops on the ready. They're stationed at Great Lakes Naval Station, which is just north of Chicago, right in between Milwaukee and Chicago. So there's a lot of people here that think there's going to be a 2-for-1 deal because Milwaukee needs help as well. But when you have numbers like that, what I can't understand for the life of me is why wouldn't you ask for help? And don't bring the National Guard into the neighborhoods because that's not going to work. Chicago is very parochial, and some of these neighborhoods are very, very hard hit. We're 2,500 police officers short in Chicago because of the Safety Act in Illinois, because of defund the police ever since the Summer of Love. So use the National Guard in the pretty parts of Chicago, guard the monuments, things like that. Put the officers in the neighborhoods, and there I think you have a win. But what you're hearing now on Fox News, what you're hearing on KCMO is the National Guard's coming to Chicago, and this is the way it's going to be. And there's protests. I'm here to tell you, Pete, you ask 8 out of 10 people in Chicago, they want the help. And these are from the people that are in these very hard-hit cities that have to worry when they lay their head down at night whether or not they're going to become one of these statistics.
So this is really just politics from Pritzker, where he wants to run for president, and if, God forbid, he works with Trump on anything, he's basically done in a Democrat primary. So it's as simple as that from Pritzker's perspective. What is Brandon Johnson, the mayor, what is his reason for not wanting to at least say, sure, you know what, you guys want to send some help, I'll take whatever you got?
Well, Brandon Johnson can't get along with anybody. His relationship is very terse with Pritzker over the Chicago public school system budget, which is $1 billion to $1.5 billion in arrears right now. So Pritzker and Brandon Johnson don't get along. Now, they will get along when it comes to this issue, but there's no love lost between these two guys. Mayor Brandon Johnson wants to tell you that Chicago's safe, and it's a flat-out lie because it's not. You can go there during certain times of the day and you'll be all right, but why they choose this to be the hill to die on, I don't get, Pete, because you just don't have the numbers to back up this safety that they talk about. You know, last week, what was it, 56 shootings, 6 to 8 dead, depending on whose numbers you look at. This weekend that just ended, what do we have? We had 18 shot, 6 dead. How can anybody say that that's safe? And that doesn't take into account the robberies on Michigan Avenue, the carjackings, the break-ins at all the stores, and in one of what used to be one of the most beautiful cities in the world. So the problem lies between where the money comes. And I know you commented on this thing I posted on social media last week. When Pritzker and Brandon Johnson gave a news conference, they spoke of what they really want, and that's federal dollars. All this is a ploy to get more money, keep Trump out and keep the troops out. So the visceral disdain between Trump and Pritzker is obvious.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have a local problem where Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson don't like each other. Brandon Johnson's approval rating is below 6%. So nobody wants to hook up with this guy and have their name tarnished if you could hurt Pritzker any more than he's already hurt himself. But he'll still be governor again because he's just got copious amounts of money. So the end game is this is just political grandstanding, and it really is. It just goes to show you how much they hate Trump. And I'll just give you a little insight here, and you probably know this, Pete. Donald Trump and the Pritzker family, they worked together in real estate business back in New York, and they were none too favorable of each other, because you know how it is, guys with egos they clash, and now we find themselves on a political stage, and it's just big egos clashing. And I'm a Trump supporter, but why fan the flames with goofy memes over the weekend on social media saying that you're bringing war to Chicago? That's not helping anything.
Well, that's fair. I like the meme, the AI-generated sumo wrestlers of J.B. Pritzker and Chris Christie. That was one of my favorites. Ray Stevens is here.
I think Pritzker's mainlining Ozempic. I'm not kidding you. Buddy, Kansas City has its fair share of problems, but buddy, it's nothing like this. As you said at the beginning of our segment here, yeah, I had to go back to Chicago because Casey wasn't violent enough.
Oh, my gosh. Ray Stevens, he did middays here on KCMO. Now he's doing mornings at WLS in Chicago. So something you mentioned there, I just want to ask you about here. When it comes to the nice areas of Chicago, the parts all down by the river, the stuff that we all see on television where your studios are at as well, are those parts seeing increases in crime, even if it's not homicides? Have you seen upticks in crime in that part of Chicago as well?
Well, you bring up the river, and right where our studio is, I look right down Columbus Drive, and then I can look out onto the lake, and it's very gentrified. We call it Streeterville. Last year, there was a shooting right outside the doors of the NBC Tower where our building is. And then what they do, Pete, when these flash mobs happen, and it's your first 80-degree day in the spring, or it's a warm a warm weekend in Chicago, what they'll do to kind of keep these areas cordoned off is they'll raise the bridges over the river and keep those people over there and these people over here. And the alderman in the location where our radio station is, a really good guy, his name's Brian Hopkins, second ward alderman. He's tried and tried and tried to put curfews in place to keep a lot of these kids, because they're 12 to 16-year-olds that are causing trouble, street takeovers, robberies, things like that. But Mayor Brandon Johnson will push back and say that curfews are racist. Jail is racist. And there's really, all this is a virtue signaling game that gets nothing done. And every weekend you'll keep hearing numbers like this, and they've just created such a problem for this city. I love it. It's my home. It's where I come from. But I wouldn't suggest anybody bring their families for a Cubs game anymore.
Oh, man, what a shame. Ray Stevens, I'm so glad you're doing well, my friend. I know things are going great in Chicago, and you are right now, of course, at the center of one of the biggest news stories in the nation. So we appreciate you joining us back here in Kansas City on KCMO. Keep up the good work, my man.
I wish good things for Xavier Worthy. Go Chiefs, and hi to Travis and Lenexa.
There you go. All right, we love it. Ray Stevens back on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. I thought he was going to say Travis and Taylor and Leewood. But instead he went to one of his favorite callers, Travis and Lenexa, getting the shout out from old Ray Stevens. There you go. Good to have him back on the airwaves.